Welcome, everybody, to Insights in Action with Orange 142. Today, I am joined by Chris Perkins of Model B Agency. Chris, how are you doing to start off?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Another great day in America.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. How's the weather over in Kansas City where you are right now?
It's actually super windy, which is kind of what we're known for. That and our barbecue. But yeah, here in the Tornado Alley, it's super windy today. So much so that they put a warning out.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I hope you're staying safe. I'd love to start this off, Chris, with just learning a little bit more about you and a little bit more about your agency.
Oh, happy to share. So Model B is what I actually refer to as a global marketing consultancy. So unlike a lot of agencies where they have lots of folks on staff, we have a very small team of like 12. And our team takes a management consulting kind of front end approach to understanding clients' business,
Okay.
both internally and externally. And then and only then do we craft what we call a success plan. And that thinks of all the touch points that marketing could be effective. By understanding the ecosystem they operate in, we're much better able to be thoughtful about the touch points that would matter. And then the way we deliver is actually through a group of outside agencies. We've built what we call the Partner Collective, and it consists of over 50 agencies around the globe that give us incredible precision and strength in lots of service areas and geographies. It's an open talent model. I guess you might have heard of that. And we're big fans of it. And it gives us, I mean, I grew up in big agency holding companies. And whenever you went to a specialist in any kind of discipline, they were always busy. This actually allows us to go to specialists and they're super excited to hear our call and jump right in. So it's nice to get past the age old question of what's the job number and actually focus on doing really interesting work.
Yeah, that's super interesting. And I just want to talk about that a little bit more because I know that Model B focuses on helping companies drive that outsized growth through highly precise marketing programs. What does precision look like in your approach, and how do you ensure that each marketing program is tailored to fuel sustainable growth for clients?
It's a great question. And it's, I think, one of the areas where most agencies frankly, most agencies get the call from a client
Yeah.
to do ads and they do ads, or they
Mhm.
do what they've always done. And instead, what we spend time thinking about is where can marketing be most effective? So again, when I mentioned, we start with a management consulting approach because by understanding all the key touch points and kind of factors internally and externally, we can then be much more precise about where marketing can best apply. And sometimes it's very non-traditional stuff. So an example of precision, we worked with a hospital group that retail hospitals, so where you go for like typical surgeries or heart care or wound care, those kinds of things. Um, they're big campuses. They're confusing. They have all kinds of service areas. They have all kinds of unique dimensions to the way they deliver services. They have thousands of employees a lot of times, parking lots all over the place. Sometimes they have colleges attached to them because they're teaching universities. Um, what we did is actually stood back and said, what's the number one contributing factor to satisfaction for the employees
Oh,
and for the patients and their families that visit them? And what we found is it's how easy it is to find your way around the campus.
yeah.
So we worked with a company that does waypointing and signage and took all the friction out. So, and we said to the client, look, the first ads we're going to do are actually around helping you fix the problem that you've got with like, where is stuff on campus? And so when doing that, I said, the metrics we're going to measure are patient satisfaction as reported by patients, because those are the ones that get asked, but also employee satisfaction. And
Mhm.
what we found is in 6 months after completing it, satisfaction was through the roof. People were super excited. Like, imagine being a nurse that's running from point A to point B all the time, getting stopped. Where's radiology? Where's the lab? Where's the waiting room? All these things. What if they didn't get asked that?
Yeah.
Then we could think about so many fewer things. The cognitive load goes down. So that's just a kind of random example of when you think of precision, how we can deliver precision. And again, we did the front end of like diagnosing what the opportunity was. And then we reached into our partner collective to find an agency partner that was like really good at that kind of thing. And that solved the problem really uniquely.
That's awesome. And it seems like, and to unironically use a healthcare metaphor here, I mean, it seems like you guys are more doctors prescribing a solution, whereas lots of times you see, not just in marketing, but in other businesses in general, people have their set of solutions and they will just say, hey, this is what we do. And we're not really going to pay attention to the problems that you guys are facing specifically because this is all we have. So it seems like you guys are truly like, can we help you? And if so, who can we use to best accomplish our shared mission?
Exactly. I mean, to stick with the medical analogy, you go to an orthopedic surgeon and they're going to suggest surgery, right? Because that's what they do.
Yeah.
And I get it, but
Mhm.
frankly, having been on tons of TV shoots, been on all kinds of ad shoots, done all kinds of traditional advertising, we still do it. I mean,
Yeah.
it's still important, but it's less where you start and more having a larger arsenal of ways to solve the problem, which it makes it a lot more interesting, frankly.
Yeah. That's awesome. And, off camera a little bit, you mentioned, that Model B works with clients who are open to inventing a better way to grow. And I guess I'm curious, how do you identify which clients are ready to take that leap? And what mindset do you think is essential for them to see success with your approach?
It's funny, that's our positive way of saying what we feel when we talk to most people on the client side. And I've been on the client side, so I feel that pain from having been there. There's so much pressure to perform, whether it's ROAS or whatever it is. I mean, one of the things we often do is we actually create dashboards or communication pieces that translate the KPIs that matter to marketers that really understand like arcane KPIs and CAC and we get all
Yeah.
trapped in the acronym soup. But if you're a head of merchandising for a retailer, they shouldn't have to know those things. What are the things they care about? How can you like earn their trust and confidence and be less servile? So many times marketing is servile to these other functional areas in organizations. And so part of what we try and do is bring them up to the table, get them a seat so that they're valued and that the other partners at the table from other disciplines actually see causality in the conversation and embrace it. And again, having been on the client side, there's nothing better than feeling like you've got somebody looking out for you and helping you feel success because you're really doing it. So we talk about outsized impact and growth and solving problems in a more unique way, because frankly, that's what it takes a lot of time. Stopping doing what you've always done and think differently. Another thing that we often do in supporting clients is a lot of them are asking us what AI tools should we be thinking about? How can we use AI more effectively? And the first rule we give them is don't plug AI into a process that you've used for 30 years.
Mhm.
Instead, step back and say, what am I trying to accomplish here? What is the AI tool's full potential to do that? How do you build process around that?
Yeah.
And it's really weird because they're like, what do you even mean? And then we lead them through a process that helps them see it. And they're like, oh my God, like we've been wasting so much time with like, fill out this form in triplicate, like, and fax it to something like stuff that arcane processes. So it's fun to help them see the light. And once you've done that a couple times, they get super jazzed about it and start bringing ideas to the table themselves.
Yeah, definitely. And I think your approach really, not just in AI, but just in general, it really caters to the fact that things are changing all the time. And it's hard for a company that's focused exclusively on growth a lot of times to stick with that because you need that outside perspective sometimes. And so when you guys frame yourselves as a consultancy, it really seems to at least to cater to that idea that things are moving and changing very quickly.
Well, I think it helps clients understand that we're going to consult with them on ways to do things differently, right?
Yeah.
Versus being an advertising agency where
Yeah.
kind of the expectations we're going to do ads. And that's again, there's lots of great agencies that do really great stuff that are very similar to us. And in fact, part of what we have in our collective of agencies are other people that do exactly what we do in some ways. But to me, the notion of helping more agencies do better work elevates the game for all of us. I mean, What I can't stand is where there are people that are just flogging away at doing the old stuff and not necessarily delivering the impact that we all would like to. That's frankly there to be had,
Right.
because that's part of what makes it harder for all of us is when there's people that are just kind of taking clients' money and doing the
Ah,
basics.
yeah. And to that point, yeah, I'd love to understand. You guys seem to be a group that really takes a lot of effort in making sure you've got the right partner. So do you have a process that you take your potential partners through to evaluate if they'd be a good one or not?
Yeah, I mean, I do all the onboarding for the partners. So yes, it's honestly, it's pretty simple. You have to declare your superpowers.
Okay.
And it's a stealth way of basically saying, as an agency, what's your positioning, which
Yeah.
most agencies get wrong or struggle with. But a lot of times they're better able to say, here's what I'm really good at. Here's what I
Yeah.
love doing. And here's proof. Right. If they can say, I'm really good at CX and UI, and this is the kind of, here's 4 examples, right? If
Yeah.
they can tell a story like I just told you about the hospital group, right? Then the proof is there. And so the rule one is define your superpowers. If you have more than 3 or 4, you're probably making it up
Yeah.
because you can't be great at all things. The second rule is don't come into any conversation with us trying to mine our client list and we won't mine yours. Was like finding common ground where we can together do really interesting work. And the third one is treat all the relationships in the collective as bidirectional relationships. Why? Because if you provide value to others, it comes back. Whether it's karma or cash, it
Yeah.
comes back. And that to me keeps it simple. There's a lot of kind of collaborative groups out there. Sometimes they're pay to play with all kinds of legal documents and stuff. We have a simple mutual NDA, non-compete, non-solicitation. It's equal terms. We're not asking you to do anything that we wouldn't do. And we have 3 simple rules. And beyond that, if you join and don't collaborate, that's fine too. Eventually you'll just fade in the background and the ones that are will kind of benefit more than you. What we do find is there's a lot of agencies that get super excited about it, but don't really know what to do, like
Yeah.
how to engage. And I do tell people, if you're going to be in the collective, you have to carve out a portion of your time to stop doing what you've always done and do something a little bit differently. And and if you do that, frankly, you should be doing that on lots of levels. And it's my view because innovation is born in doing things differently, right? And so I always, we just had our quarterly summit last Thursday. And I said, think of one project every quarter to do with the collective. And it can be, I want to do thought leadership together. That's a project, right? Let's collaborate on a blog post or a podcast. Why not? That's simple effort, takes you out of your comfort zone and forces you to think different. And I guarantee you'll see value in it.
Yeah. That's awesome. And that's a really cool way to look at it because you guys are taking that extra step in the thing that I've always believed. I honestly probably say this on every podcast, and that the agency world compared to most other industries is very relationship based, and it thrives on that specifically. And I think that's so important. So to have you guys have like that extra step where it's like, hey, this is an actual collective, and we're here to help each other is frankly awesome. Um,
It makes sense.
yeah. And so I want to talk a little bit about the shift that you're kind of seeing from retained to project based work. How has the shift impacted Model B's client relationships and what benefits or challenges have you observed with a project based structure?
We see it happening dramatically. I mean, retainer-based relationships are not where they used to be.
Yeah.
And frankly, our business model is built around that reality. So we're perfectly equipped to do project work or retainer work. A lot of times we have a retainer that's quite small compared to what, when I was at big agencies, we'd have $1 million plus retainer. In fact, I worked at one global network where we wouldn't work with anybody unless they had at least a $2 million a year retainer. That was the baseline. And I mean, one of my clients was a $12.5 million a year retainer. So, I mean, I managed almost $40 million in income. And now I think our largest retainer at Model B is somewhere around, I don't know, 60K a month, something like that. Now, what that gets you is an investment in craft, what we call a success plan. We craft a success plan and we call it that. It's really a roadmap of actions that we're going to take. It has KPIs in it that are both quantitative and qualitative. And we track it very carefully. And we require the clients to be vested in those are the things that matter. And then we work together to try and deliver them. And if we're doing that, frankly, it should be great. But the ability to have projects in that lower retainer world allows us to say, we're not ready to, we would recommend you update your website or add to it in this way. But let's not do that until Q3 next year.
Yeah.
Right. And by the way, here's the partner we would suggest we bring in for this. Here's the e-com layer that we're going to add, or we're going to switch you off of this to shop, whatever it is, right? We can be much more flexible. And so instead of spending all that money in a retainer where it's a chunk of overhead that you don't get value from, why don't you apply that much more precisely for project-based? But we actually look at the world through 3 lenses, not just 2. So we do projects, we do retainer, and we also do innovation projects that are bounty based. So if we've got a client and we work together to identify something that's kind of a moonshot, that's something like uniquely different, and we want to really tackle it in a different way, we'll actually put it out there to the partner collective as like who wants to tackle this? Who wants to make even the brief better?
Yeah.
And they'll come in and say, I can do that for $10,000 or 100,000, whatever the number is. And they almost competitively bid on it
Wow.
to get to a price that the client's finally like, you know what, let's go. We got this. We got a really tight brief now. So it's almost a reversed auction. And I think we'll see more of that happen out in the world, right? Or where you've got a problem and you, rather than prescribing who solves it, you throw it out there as an opportunity for people to propose how it gets solved, what the budget should be, and the timeline. And frankly, I think that's fantastic. It just makes me so excited to think differently that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a really interesting way to look at it. I think a lot of it is based on client needs. At Orange 142, we've got a lot of people that we do project based work for, and they come to us when they need us. And a lot of people that need that retainer because it's an ongoing year round thing. And so really understanding what the client needs. But I totally agree I like the idea of project based, and I like that you guys take that approach to really do what's best for the client based on what they need and what price they can come down to, because that always ends up being a factor.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, nobody's calling any agency and saying, I've got extra money, let's do more. Like, I can pay you guys lots of fees. Like, that's just not happening.
Yeah.
Or if it is, it's a crank call, hang up.
Yeah. So with data confusion being a common barrier to better performance, how do you guys guide clients through their data to focus on the insights that truly impact growth and avoid distractions that can drain resources?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, one of the things we work really hard with a couple of different partners that are expert at it. And it depends on how complex the situation is. But we talked with earlier today, I actually had a conversation with a client that has 3 different business units that they have 3 different websites for, that they have all the data in one BI. And it's like, you're killing yourself. Like, this is data overload. You've got mass confusion, and you're using the same acronym for different journeys, and you need to change this. That's impractical. So that's where we go back to the success plan. We unpack it and say, we kind of atomize it, right? At the nuclear level, what are the things that matter most? And how can you focus on just those? And how can you make sure you've got data integrity around those and insights that are actionable, not just like data overload? It drives me insane when people are talking about something like a heat map that doesn't have any specific, it tells you how long people are on a page and where they're looking and stuff, but like, great. But like, what are we going to do with that other than maybe work to refine the focal point of the site? And is that our biggest problem? Are we getting lost in the noise of the PDP page when we should really be focusing on something further up the funnel or landing pages? I don't know. I mean, so we tend to say less is more, and let's really focus in on the things that matter. And let's make sure that everybody's calling the same thing, something that we all agree on and understand what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a good point. It's so easy to just show data, and it's like the old thing. Like, look how many impressions your ad got, but it's like, well, how many of these actually led to conversions? Like, this is just numbers for numbers' sake. So, well, Chris, this has been an awesome chat. I really like how you guys really take that extra step to put your clients first. It's really refreshing to hear. Where can people find out more about you? Where can people find out more about your agency?
If they just look up Chris Perkins at Model B on LinkedIn, you can grab me there for sure. I'm also on Threads. I gave up on the X or whatever the heck that's called these days. X seems like something I needed to do to it, so I X'd it out. And then Model B, it's just modelb.com,
Okay.
and welcome any inquiries to learn more or to collaborate. It's definitely our model.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, definitely. Well, I will have all that linked in the show notes. And yeah, this has been fantastic talking to you. Thanks so much for being on.
No, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.